Welcome to Raw, ladies and gentlemen. You know, we got 3 weeks before Elimination Chamber. We wonder what they're going to do for it. And looking at this show, they're really trying very hard to give us some type of content. Now, the first thing I'm going to talk about is Batista. I could leave this for last, but I thought I'd say it first. It's good to see Batista back. I'm glad to see him. We have been lacking real star power on Raw for quite a long time. I mean, for me personally, the person I've loved the most that had been on Raw that was doing reasonably well was Mark Henry. As a world champion, I loved seeing him on SmackDown bringing a lot of interest, but then I loved seeing him on Raw bringing a lot of interest. I would have liked to see him become WWE champion, but you know how the cards go. Now we know that he's coming back next week. But this is about Batista. The Batista segment with ADR. They're trying to ramp up ADR to be interesting. I'm not interested, I'm sorry. Because of the lack of content for him, and this is what I've said in many of my videos, I don't give a fuck. They don't even give a good reason for Batista to even have a feud with ADR. This segment clearly states there was nothing there. Because Batista's saying, look, I have no issue with you. I don't understand why you're messing with me. And in the end, when he said it for the second time, he gets smacked in the face. Well, actually gets punched by basically a bitch slap, like, I'm going to dominate you. So now, we actually have a feud between the two. It could have been more interesting. They could have had ADR go to somewhere that Batista was. Months ahead of time, or weeks ahead of time, had met him. It would have been on media. It could have been something they could have ramped up and made ADR a much more stronger character than he is now. Facing Rey's not enough for me. Facing Kofi wasn't enough for me. Facing Sin Cara, who is Hunico now, had nothing for me. This, the only reason I'm interested to see this match that's coming over at Elimination Chamber is because I'm interested in seeing how well Batista can get back into the groove again. He does look a little ring rusty. That's just me. His promos have gotten way better. He only had a few. But you can tell that he's beginning to remember all that stuff he let go 4 years ago. So I'm alright with it. But that's the only reason I'm watching this. I want to see if he can get rid of some of his ring rust. That he will be doing well by the time he goes to WrestleMania 30. Because if he isn't, this is going to be ugly. Now, the next thing I'm going to talk about, I want to get it over with. That is the trucker, Jack Swagger, versus Christian. Now, understand Christian is now going to be in the Elimination Chamber because of the matches he had at SmackDown, which I still haven't watched. I'm sorry. But I thought this was really supposed to help Antonio Vizzato break away from, well, they've been together for several months. They have begun to get the crowd over on them. And I am talking about Jack Swagger and Antonio Vizzato. Zed has helped them a lot. But now it's time to split these guys. And I can tell, like I said before, if anyone's seen my previous videos, Zed Coulter with Antonio Vizzato could actually work. When it comes to Jack Swagger, he's dead weight. But I still state, and I think this might be honest right here, they need all three of them to turn face. So really, Antonio really get over more better than this. Because after Elimination Chamber, it's just not going to be enough. I'm sorry. Christian won because he needs to win. But really, we didn't really win that much here. Jack, Zed, and Antonio must turn face. I don't really care about Jack. I don't care about Zed. But you need this to go with him. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is... Alright, I'm going to say it now. I'm sorry, I'm still very sick. The weather out here in New York is really bad. We're about to get another snowstorm, so I'm sure more people in the Midwest understand it better than me. Excuse me. Fandango versus Santina Marella for a dance-off, but that's what we originally thought. I've said before a couple of times that Emma being there is a good idea to bring her in. You want to bring Emma in a different way than just throwing her out there. And I'm glad they did it this way. It was interesting. Seeing Emma come in her Australian attitude, doing the Emma dance. Emma Revolution, baby. I'm putting out there right now, hashtag Emma Evolution. I'm mispronouncing it because it's kind of fun. I love Summer Rae. She's a gorgeous looking woman. If I had Summer Rae as my girlfriend, I'd be a very happy man. She's a good looking, slender woman. Emma is an average looking Australian. I'm not saying that Australians are not gorgeous women. They got some gorgeous looking Australian women out there. But she looks like an average Australian woman. It's her character, her attitude is going to get her over more than her beauty. Summer Rae is a very good looking woman over Emma. Emma's not bad looking. She's good looking. But Summer's better looking. But the crowd was won over by Emma because of her charisma. And that's something we don't see in divas anymore. I want to see charisma win over as much as I want to see beauty and athletic ability. And that leads me into the next match, which is for a divas match. It is Oksana versus Naomi. My Naomi, oh my goodness gracious, that woman still makes me smile. You can see a smile on my face because I love my Naomi. I said it early, Trinity McCoy is going to be brought under the radar because she has potential to be a great wrestler. A great Divas champion. Does that mean we're going to get this? No. I have a very great feeling. Just like the last time when they gave her that shot against Eve Torres. She wasn't over greatly, but the crowd still liked Naomi. In this segment, even with Cameron chanting for her and trying to get the crowd built up for her, she wasn't really that greatly over, and that upsets me. Naomi has not been presented properly. Yes, as a Funkadactyl, people love her as that, but as a singles competitor, she has never really had that moment on Raw. She's been doing tag team, and that's where I believe the problem is. Naomi now with Cameron, without the Funkasaurus, and where the fuck is he? He's supposed to be heel. You guys tell me below where the fuck he went. Sorry for the curse, but you get my point. Now that they're separated from him, they're all by themselves doing their own thing. It's alright. But eventually, even if Naomi doesn't win this, and I believe they're not even going to give her a shot to really win it, I believe AJ is still going to retain if it goes into Elimination Chamber or before. But in the end, Naomi must be broken away from Cameron. Eventually, Naomi must stand on her own and build her own character. Naomi Knight from the original NXT, when it first started, had a great character. But once she became a Funkasaurus, that basically got put on the back burner. For her to really get over, she must get her own time to talk. She must get her own in-ring segments. She must be given that option if she's going to make it. Let's be honest, ladies and gentlemen. We've seen every diva. You see why I'm botching? Because it's frustrating. There's only a few divas that have not gotten the championship. Oksana, Summer Rae, Tamina is one that should have had it years ago and she didn't get it. Look at Naomi. Naomi is one of the best divas they have right now. Physically, she's very beautiful. Not talking about that big ass and nice tits. I'm talking about just in a basic shape, she's a very beautiful woman. But she has great in-ring ability. She also can talk very well. She can tell a very good story. She essentially right now is one of the best divas they have next to Natalya. Of course, Natalya is a much more better hands-on wrestler. She's a more old school technical wrestler. But as a high flyer, there is nobody. So I'm going to move on to the high-flying match of Rey Mysterio, of Biggie Langston, and Kofi Kingston versus The Shield. There's some high flying there. It was a decent match, but it really didn't matter. The Shield was supposed to deal with the Wyatts because the Wyatts had fucked the Shield. This would have been more interesting maybe 2 months ago when they had that really great question when the Shield messed with the Wyatts while dealing with Daniel Bryan. If Daniel Bryan had been split off from Bray Wyatt a while before then, the Shield dealing with the Wyatts then would have been hot. But now it doesn't feel hot to me. You guys tell me below if it feels still very hot. But it feels lukewarm at best because the Shield have been dealing with Daniel Bryan for so long. They're still kind of connected to the hip until Daniel Bryan does something else. So seeing the next match, which was Bray Wyatt versus Dolph, it upsets me seeing these two dance. Seeing R-Truth going back to the way it was is bullshit. Seeing Xavier Woods doing the dance is boring, even though he can dance. The Wyatts did a good match like the Shield, but in the end the Wyatts won just like the Shield win, and the Shield cut a promo on them. Like I said, it feels lukewarm. If this was 2 months ago, and even though Bray Wyatt and really Daniel Bryan were really working together, you could have split him off and it would have been alright. And the Shield and the Wyatts could have easily gone together. That's just my perception of it. But now it just feels really lukewarm. They got 3 weeks, maybe they'll give me more interest. Now, Titus O'Neil against Zack Ryder. Oh yes. Titus has now been broken away from Darren Young. I'm about to say Eric Young from TNA, I'm sorry. Darren Young. But I feel like this isn't over between them. There's going to be a feud. Usually tag team partners do that. You see the SmackDown footage? And during this show, we got a lot of blood. We got Roman Reigns bleeding his face off, and he did a good showing in his match, but he was bleeding there. Jack Swagger was bleeding from his mouth. And then you see on SmackDown, they got Darren Young bleeding. WWE is really, I'm sorry to say TNA, WWE is really having to pay a lot of fines because they're not supposed to do that anymore. Unless it's a pay-per-view. So, what do we get from Titus O'Neil? A more serious competitor. Now, if the music they gave him was more of a rougher, smash mouth type of music, which is good. It feels a little weird going from millions of dollars, and now becoming, I am millions of dollars. I'm going to take what I want. I am Titus O'Neil. Something, they need to give him something more. He cannot have a comedic attitude. If they want him to get over, they have to turn him very mean and nasty. So let's see here. Anything else on my agenda? Alexander Rusky and a very, very, very good looking a woman that's doing a little bit from Rocky 4, I believe. Rocky 3 or 4 when Rocky had to face the Russian and Dolph Lundgren. That woman that's in his back looked damn good. I don't know who she is. She's from NXT, of course. But that's good to have him having a very good looking manager. I'm very impressed to see. Well, I'm impressed how he did in the Royal Rumble. And I said it. So I'm going to be very interested in seeing how they're going to bring him in. The vignettes don't look that bad. But let's just hope they do a good job with him. Now, who else here? The Batista and ADR segment. I think I spoke about this earlier. Yeah, I did speak about it earlier, so I'm gonna leave that. If I did forget, you guys tell me below. I'm still very sick, so I'm very sorry. I think the last thing we're gonna talk about is Daniel Bryan and Orton. Oh no, there's one more. But I'll do the Daniel Bryan and Orton now. The opening of the show wasn't too bad. Seeing Daniel Bryan being one of the first challengers for Orton was okay. Now we're going to see everyone else. This SmackDown, we're going to see Orton go up against Christian, which is a smart move. You need to give interest on both shows. The reason I'm botching it and slurring my words is because this was a great match. But why did Kane get involved? Why? Why? I don't understand. That's what threw me off for this match at the end of the show. Why? It could have been the match of the night for me personally. But why was Kane there? As far as I know, Daniel Bryan and Kane have not had any interaction at all. So him coming out really threw me for a loop. It just irked me. There's nothing there. So even though it was a great match and Daniel Bryan won, he got his ass handed to him not only by Orton, but by Kane. Orton should have been the one to stay in the ring by himself if Kane had interfered. And if he had been up the ramp, it would have been better. Then at least you can give Daniel Bryan something to do for the next 3 weeks. Dealing with Kane in some fashion, talking with him. He doesn't have to always be in the ring. But that's just me. But the match of the night for me was a tag team of the Rose Brothers and the badass Billy Gunn, the Road Dogg, the tag team champions of the world. I had to do it, I'm sorry. I have never really had a chance to see these guys really go. And even though they did pretty well in the pre-show, to be in a good spot in the card was actually very nice to see. To be honest, they didn't really need the steel cage. It was like an extra novelty that I could have easily didn't want. It could have been fine like that. No steel cage, and it would have still been a great match. But I have to admit, seeing Cody go to the top of that cage and doing basically a moonsault off on it and try to take out the Road Dogg that way was good. I liked it. And Cody was the one who was pinned by Billy Gunn. What does this mean now? It could mean two things. One, we're going to still have the Rose Brothers together and they will not break up. They'll just keep them together for another few months to a year. Or, because Cody messed up and began to get very frustrated, we could actually see a conflict between Goldust and Cody, and finally the two Rose Brothers split apart and they pushed Cody into the main event scene, not the IC Championship. He's already gotten it. That's what my hope is. So, how was this show? Next to falling asleep a couple of times because I wasn't feeling well, it wasn't that bad. If I'm forgetting something, you guys tell me below. But it wasn't a bad build-up going into Elimination Chamber. I am more than happy to see Naomi get spotlighted. She has the ability. Alexander Rusky, I want to see what's going on with this boy. I want to see this guy who's barefooted. If the Uso brothers went barefooted like their dad did at one point, and their uncles did at one point, that would have been interesting. This guy's doing it by himself, so I want to see how far it's going to go. Emma being spotlighted. The Emma dance is something you just can't put your finger on. It's just something about it. I enjoyed it. So, it wasn't a great show, but I did enjoy it. So, I hope you enjoyed the Zane View. Please give me a comment and tell me if I missed something. What do you think I missed? See ya!